My name is Jordan, and for most of my life, I was exactly what everyone expected me to be. I worked a respectable job as a software engineer at a tech company downtown. I had a decent apartment, a reliable car, a gym membership I actually used. My weekends involved craft beer with college friends, occasional dates with women I met through apps, and binge-watching whatever series everyone was talking about at the office. From the outside, I had it together. I was the friend people came to for practical advice. The colleague who always met deadlines. The son who called his parents every Sunday. Dependable. Stable. Unremarkable. But here's what nobody knew. I was suffocating. Not in some dramatic, obvious way. It was more like living underwater. Everything was muted, distant, like I was experiencing my own life through thick glass. I'd wake up, go through the motions, laugh at the appropriate times, express the expected emotions, and then come home to an emptiness I couldn't name. I thought everyone felt this way. I thought this vague sense of disconnection was just adulthood, just the price you pay for being a responsible human being. I didn't know that some people actually felt at home in their own skin, that authenticity was something real people experienced and not just a buzzword from self-help books. The night everything shifted. It happened on a Thursday in October. I'd stayed late at the office working on a product launch, and by the time I left, the city had transformed into its nighttime version. Neon lights reflecting off wet pavement, the distant thump of music from various venues, the energy of people living their after-dark lives. I was walking to my usual parking garage when I realized I'd taken a wrong turn. The streets in this part of downtown all look similar, especially at night, and I'd somehow ended up on a block I didn't recognize. I pulled out my phone to check the map, but the battery was dead. Classic. That's when I noticed the entrance. It was subtle, just a door with a small rainbow flag sticker and a handwritten sign that said Haven, safe space for all. Warm light spilled from the edges, and I could hear muffled music and conversation inside. Something about the atmosphere drew me in. Or maybe I was just looking for directions and a phone charger. I hesitated at the door. This clearly wasn't my world. I could tell from the aesthetic, from the energy, that this was an LGBTQ+ space. I almost kept walking. But then a couple emerged, laughing together, and they held the door open for me with welcoming smiles. Before I could overthink it, I stepped inside. The interior was dim but warm, decorated with string lights and eclectic furniture that looked collected rather than purchased. There was a small bar on one side, intimate tables scattered throughout, and a tiny stage where someone was doing spoken word poetry. But what caught my attention immediately was the diversity of gender expression in the room. There were people in various stages of presentation, some in full drag makeup and elaborate costumes, others in casual clothes but with mixed gender signifiers, others who defied any categorization I had language for. And everyone seemed so comfortable, so at ease with themselves in a way I'd never experienced. I must have been standing there staring, because a person approached me, tall, wearing an immaculate vintage dress and perfectly applied makeup, with a warm smile that immediately put me at ease. "First time?" they asked, their voice kind. "Is it that obvious?" I replied, "Only because you have that look. The one everyone has the first time they find this place. Like you've stumbled into Narnia." They extended a hand. "I'm Phoenix. Welcome to Haven." "Jordan," I said, shaking their hand. "I actually just got lost looking for my parking garage." Phoenix laughed, a genuine, delightful sound. "That's what they all say. The universe has a funny way of getting us where we need to be. Come on, let me buy you a drink." The conversation that cracked me open. I should have made my excuses and left. I should have gotten directions and returned to my car, to my normal life, to the safety of my routine. But I didn't. Something about Phoenix's energy, about the atmosphere of this place, made me want to stay. We sat at the bar, and Phoenix ordered me something called a gender blender, a colorful cocktail that tasted like raspberry and rebellion. We started talking, and within 20 minutes, I'd told them more about my life than I'd told anyone in years. About the disconnection I felt. About going through the motions. About feeling like I was always performing a role rather than living. "Can I ask you something?" Phoenix said, their eyes serious despite their playful appearance. "When you were a kid, did you ever try on your mother's clothes? Or your sister's? Or just wonder what it felt like?" My throat tightened. The memory hit me immediately. I was 8 years old, home alone, standing in my mother's closet with my hand on one of her dresses. I'd wanted to try it on so badly, but terror had frozen me in place. Terror of what it meant. Terror of being caught. Terror of myself. "How did you know?" I whispered. Because that's how it starts for a lot of us, Phoenix said gently. That curiosity. That pull towards something society tells us we shouldn't want. We bury it, push it down, tell ourselves it's nothing. But it never really goes away, does it? I felt something crack inside my chest, not painful, but like a seal breaking, letting in air for the first time. No, I admitted. It never goes away. Phoenix studied me for a moment, then asked, would you like to see something? The room that held possibilities. Phoenix led me through a curtain at the back of Haven into a smaller room. It was styled like a vintage dressing room, full-length mirrors, racks of clothes, a makeup vanity with professional lighting, wigs on stands. Several people were in various states of transformation, helping each other with zippers and makeup, laughing and encouraging each other. This is our transformation space, Phoenix explained. A lot of people come here to explore, to try on different versions of themselves. No judgment, no pressure. Just permission to be curious. They turned to me. Would you like to try? Every logical part of my brain screamed at me to say no. To leave. To go back to my safe, predictable, suffocating life. But a deeper part of me, a part I'd been silencing for 28 years, whispered yes. I don't know what I'm doing, I said. Nobody does at first. That's the point. Phoenix gestured to the racks. Exploration isn't about knowing. It's about discovering. My hands were shaking as I browsed through the clothes. There were dresses in every style, cocktail dresses, sundresses, evening gowns, casual day dresses. There were skirts and blouses and outfits I didn't have names for. I kept touching fabrics, pulling my hand back, touching them again. Finally, I selected something simple. A black A-line dress with three-quarter sleeves. Nothing too dramatic, but feminine in a way that made my heart race. Perfect choice, Phoenix said. Classic. Elegant. Let me show you how to work with what you've got. What happened next felt like both the longest and shortest hour of my life. Phoenix and another person named Skylar helped me into the dress, showing me how to adjust it for my body type. They taught me basic makeup application, foundation to smooth my skin, mascara to open my eyes, a subtle lip color. They fitted me with a shoulder-length brunette wig that looked surprisingly natural. Throughout the process, they kept up a steady stream of encouragement and practical advice, treating this like the most normal thing in the world. And in this space, I realized, it was normal. This was what Haven offered, not judgment, not spectacle, but simple acceptance of exploration. Ready to look? Phoenix asked when they were finished. I'd been avoiding the mirror, terrified of what I'd see. Terrified I'd look ridiculous. Terrified I'd love it. Both possibilities felt equally dangerous. But I turned toward the mirror. The person looking back at me wasn't a man in a dress. It wasn't a joke or a costume. It was me. A version of me I'd never allowed to exist. The features were the same, my eyes, my nose, my facial structure, but arranged in a context that felt right in a way I couldn't articulate. I started crying. Not sad tears, but the kind that come when something locked inside you finally breaks free. There you are, Phoenix said softly. Welcome home. I spent the next 3 hours at Haven. I met dozens of people, transgender women and men, non-binary folks, cross-dressers, drag performers, people exploring their gender in ways I didn't have language for. Every single person had a story. Every single person had experienced some version of what I was feeling. A trans woman named Melissa told me about coming out at 45, after decades of marriage and 3 children. I thought I was too old, that I'd missed my chance, she said. But here's the secret. You're never too old to become yourself. A younger person named River, who used they/them pronouns, talked about the relief of finally existing outside the binary. For years, I tried to fit into boxes that weren't made for me. Now I don't use boxes at all. I just exist as I am. A crossdresser named David, who presented as male in his daily life but came to Haven weekly to dress femme, explained his perspective. I'm not trans. I'm comfortable being a man. But expressing my feminine side isn't a betrayal of that. It's a completion of it. We're all more complex than one gender can contain. Each story added a piece to the puzzle I was assembling about myself. I didn't have answers yet. I didn't know if I was transgender, if I was a crossdresser, if this was a one-time exploration or the beginning of something bigger. But for the first time in my life, I felt permission to not know. Permission to question. Permission to explore without having to immediately label and categorize everything. It was almost 2 a.m. when I finally left Haven. I'd changed back into my regular clothes, But Phoenix had given me a bag with some basic makeup and information about the community, along with a schedule of Haven's events. Come back whenever you're ready, they said, hugging me goodbye. Or don't. Whatever you need is valid. Just remember, you found this place because some part of you was looking for it. I walked through the empty streets back to my car, my mind spinning. Everything looked the same buildings, same streetlights, same city, but I felt fundamentally different. Like I'd been sleepwalking through my entire life and had just woken up. When I got home to my apartment, I sat on my couch in the dark and tried to process what had happened. For 28 years, I'd been living with a locked door inside myself, never acknowledging it, never questioning what might be behind it. And in one unexpected night, that door had opened just a crack, and the light coming through was both terrifying and beautiful. I did what I always did when confused. I researched. I spent the rest of that night reading about gender identity, gender expression, cross-dressing, transgender experiences. I learned terminology I'd never encountered. I read stories from people who'd felt exactly what I was feeling. I discovered that this experience, this profound sense of recognition when presenting as a different gender, had a name, a history, a community. The sun was rising when I finally went to bed, but I couldn't sleep. My mind kept returning to that moment in the mirror, to the person I'd seen looking back at me, to the feeling of rightness that I'd never experienced before. I went back to Haven the following week. And the week after that. And the week after that. It became my Thursday night ritual. I'd leave work, drive to that neighborhood, park in the garage I'd originally been looking for, and walk to that door with the rainbow sticker. Each time, I experimented a little more. I tried different styles of dresses, different makeup looks, different wigs. I learned to walk in heels without looking like a baby giraffe. I discovered that I had preferences. I liked A-line dresses better than bodycon, preferred natural makeup to dramatic, felt most comfortable in hair that fell just past my shoulders. I also chose a name for this version of myself, Jade. It came to me one night while I was getting ready, and it just felt right. Jade was the part of me that wore dresses and makeup. Jade was the part that felt comfortable and authentic in feminine expression. Jordan still existed. He went to work, saw friends, lived his regular life. But Jade was becoming just as real. I was living a double life, and the cognitive dissonance was exhausting. At work, I'd sit in meetings analyzing user metrics and conversion rates while part of my brain wondered what dress I'd wear that Thursday. I'd go out with friends for drinks and feel like I was watching myself from outside, like Jordan was a character I was playing rather than who I really was. My friend Marcus noticed something was different. "You seem distracted lately, man. Everything okay?" "Yeah, just figuring some stuff out," I said, which was the understatement of the century. This went on for 3 months. 3 months of Thursday nights at Haven, of living as Jade for a few precious hours before transforming back into Jordan. 3 months of feeling more and more like I was betraying both versions of myself by keeping them separate. The crisis came on a random Tuesday afternoon. I was in my apartment, supposedly working from home, but I couldn't concentrate. I kept thinking about a dress I'd seen online, wondering if it would look good on me, imagining wearing it. And then I thought, why am I waiting until Thursday? Why can't I wear it now? Because someone might see. Because it wasn't appropriate for a weekday. Because Jordan wore t-shirts and jeans while working from home, not dresses. But I was alone in my apartment. Alone with locked doors and closed curtains. The only person stopping me was myself. I ordered the dress with express shipping. When it arrived the next day, I held the package in my hands for 20 minutes before opening it. This felt different from Haven. Haven was a safe space, a liminal zone where different rules applied. Bringing it into my home, into my regular life, felt like crossing a line. But hadn't I already crossed it? Hadn't I crossed it that first night when I walked through that door? Hadn't I crossed it every Thursday when I transformed into Jade? I opened the package. I put on the dress. I did my own makeup. I'd gotten much better at it. I styled my wig. And then I just existed. I worked on my laptop. I made dinner. I watched TV. I did all my normal activities, but dressed as Jade. And it felt amazing. Not exciting or transgressive, but simply comfortable. Natural. Right. That's when I realized, this wasn't a hobby. This wasn't a phase. This wasn't something I could compartmentalize forever. This was a fundamental part of who I was, and keeping it hidden was slowly killing me. I started seeing a therapist who specialized in gender identity. Dr. Chen was patient, non-judgmental, and helped me work through the tangled mess of feelings I'd been carrying. "Labels can be useful," she told me in one session, but they can also be limiting. You don't have to rush to define exactly what this means for you. Crossdresser, transgender, gender fluid, non-binary. These are all valid identities, and you might identify with one, or multiple, or none. The important thing is figuring out what feels authentic to you. Through our sessions, I started to understand that my experience with gender was more fluid than binary. I didn't necessarily feel like a woman trapped in a man's body, the narrative I'd seen in movies. I felt like myself, and that self wanted the freedom to express both masculine and feminine aspects without having to choose one or hide the other. I also started coming out to people in my life. I told Marcus first, over drinks at our usual bar. My hands were shaking as I explained about Haven, about Jade, about the past few months of my life he knew nothing about. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Okay. So, do you want me to call you Jade now? Or Jordan? How does this work?" I felt tears prick my eyes at how matter-of-fact he was being. Jordan's still fine. Jade is. It's a part of me I'm still figuring out. Cool. And this dress thing, is it like, all the time now, or just sometimes? Still figuring that out too. He nodded, took a sip of his beer. Well, for what it's worth, you seem happier lately. More present. Whatever you're doing, it's working. I'm not going to tell you this story has a neat, tidy ending, because it doesn't. 6 months after that first night at Haven, I'm still figuring things out. I've started presenting as Jade more often outside of safe spaces, at LGBTQ events, at certain cafes and bookstores, gradually expanding the areas of my life where I allow myself to be fully expressed. I've lost some people. A few friends who couldn't handle it, who saw my exploration as threatening or weird. My relationship with my parents is strained. They're trying to understand, but it's hard for them. My father still doesn't really talk about it. My mother asked if I'm planning to become a woman, and I didn't have a simple answer for her. But I've also gained so much. A community of people who understand this journey. A sense of authenticity I never had before. The freedom to express different aspects of myself without shame. A developing comfort in my own skin that I didn't know was possible. I still don't have all the labels figured out. Some days I feel more Jordan, some days more Jade. Some days I wake up and want to wear a button-down and jeans. Other days I want a sundress and sandals. I'm learning that gender doesn't have to be static, that I don't have to choose one version of myself and abandon the other. Work has been complicated. I haven't come out there yet, still presenting as Jordan in that context. But I'm working up to it. I've started researching companies with better LGBTQ policies, considering whether a career change might be part of this journey. The thing about journeys like this is that they don't really end. That night I stumbled into Haven didn't fix me or complete me. It opened a door that will stay open for the rest of my life. And some days that's terrifying, and some days it's liberating, and most days it's both. I still go to Haven every Thursday. But it's not a desperate escape anymore. It's community. It's home base. Phoenix has become one of my closest friends. We meet for coffee sometimes, them in full glamour, me in whatever I'm feeling that day, and talk about the ongoing adventure of figuring ourselves out. Do you regret it? Phoenix asked me recently. That first night? If you could go back, knowing everything you know now about how complicated this would make your life, would you still walk through that door? I didn't even have to think about it. Absolutely. Because the alternative is living like I was before, half alive, disconnected, pretending. This is harder, but it's real. And real is always better than comfortable. Phoenix smiled. That's the most profound thing anyone said while wearing a Taylor Swift t-shirt and a full face of contour. I laughed. Because that's the thing, this journey doesn't have to be all heavy and serious. Yes, it's profound. Yes, it's challenging. But it's also just life. My life. Messy and complicated and still being written. If you're reading this and something resonates, if you've ever felt that pull toward expression society told you wasn't for you, if you've ever wondered what it would feel like to present differently, I want you to know you're not alone. And you're not broken. The journey looks different for everyone. You might be transgender and need to fully transition. You might be a crossdresser who's comfortable with your assigned gender but finds joy in expressing differently. You might be somewhere in between, in a space that doesn't have a simple label. All of these are valid. All of these are real. Finding yourself, your authentic self, isn't selfish. It's not indulgent. It's not a phase or a trend or attention-seeking. It's the most fundamental human need, to exist as yourself, without pretense, without performance, without shame. It won't be easy. There will be people who don't understand. There will be consequences and complications. There will be days when hiding seems infinitely simpler than being visible. But there will also be moments of profound joy. The first time you see yourself, really see yourself, in the mirror. The first time someone perceives you as you want to be perceived. The moment you realize you're not just surviving anymore, you're actually living. That wrong turn on a Thursday night wasn't wrong at all. It was the most right turn I've ever made. It led me to a door, and through that door was a mirror, and in that mirror was a version of myself I'd been hiding for 28 years. The unexpected journey that changed me forever didn't change me at all. It revealed me. And now that I've seen my reflection, my true reflection, I can never unsee it. More importantly, I never want to. The door to Haven always has that same small rainbow sticker and handwritten sign, safe space for all. But I've learned that the real Haven isn't a physical place. It's the space you create inside yourself where all your parts are welcome, where masculine and feminine can coexist, where you don't have to choose between versions of yourself because all of you is valid. I'm Jordan. I'm Jade. I'm still figuring out what that means and where this journey leads. But for the first time in my life, I'm not just going through the motions. I'm present. I'm authentic. I'm alive. And that's everything. Though I didn't find anything, I stopped losing. For 28 years, I'd been losing pieces of myself to expectation, to fear, to shame. That night, I stopped. And when you stop losing yourself, you discover what was there all along. Someone worth knowing. Someone worth being. Someone worth the journey, no matter how unexpected the path.